Life is a precious thing, and I believe mortals take it for granted. You know, the very act of drawing breath is a testament to artistry itself. Those who question the nature, relevance, or even existence of a divine artisan of creation need only pause long enough to consider the ramifications of that question. To question the intricacy, complexity, and detail in every aspect of life. That life itself is something to be appreciated, perhaps even the ability to appreciate anything, is all testimony to a grand design far beyond the scope of mortals. Or even beyond my scope, I suppose. But then again, what do I know? Life is complicated, and I confess myself not a complex individual, by my own understanding anyway. I ask for little and require little. I do not require food or water or air as most humans do for sustenance, although I can appreciate the taste of food. My particular favorite are peaches. I can appreciate the texture of water, and I can even bask in the briskness of air. I have very few possessions of my own other than the robes upon my body, the sword at my side, and this single book that I've truly come to appreciate the more I contemplate and write in it. Maybe I do have a capacity for appreciation. That said, I have few memories of deep connection or complex emotional attachments. However, there were a few times where I carried other things with me, things that, in all honesty, I wonder why I held them so dear to me at all. A certain time I remember. The year was 1944. Standing on a battlefield I quite forgot the name of, I remember that I was extremely busy, so I don't know why this one soldier caught my eye. He lay on the soil, dirt and blood covering his face and body. His soul was waiting for me to take it, and I knelt down as I would with any other to accept it, but I noted that this time something stood out. His white knuckles clung tightly to something. As I extracted his soul, his grip loosened. I dared to take a moment and open his hand and see what he'd been desperately clinging to. It was a locket. Inside was a little photograph of a girl. Someone special to this man, I presume. And as I held the soul in my arms, along with all the others I'd collected so far that day, it kept whispering the same name over and over. Emily. Now, I didn't have time to contemplate this or to ask for clarity. I was needed elsewhere on that field, but I did hold on to the locket. I kept it in my robe for years and years, taking it out every now and then just to stare at the girl inside named Emily. I would run it over my fingers and appreciate the subtle detail in the locket's design, the floral engravings along the exterior, and the adorable toothy smile of the little girl. It became a hobby of mine to just stare at it, admire it. I think it may have been one of the closest moments in which I ever came to cherish something that, in all honesty, I had no reason to cherish. I don't know why. Why did I care about that locket? Or was there maybe a deeper purpose to it all? Is that what life is? A simple thing with a deeper purpose? I'm still not quite certain. It haunts me to consider. I do remember when I lost it, though. I remember losing the locket. I don't remember the exact year, but I do remember that it was sometime during the Cold War. I was called to a town in Germany where I was sent to pick up another soul. Inside a lonely home in Munich, there I found a woman whose face struck me as familiar. Though she was laying in bed and quiet in her room, I felt like I knew her. I hesitated and took out the locket. I stared between it and her. She was older now. Wrinkles covered her face, and her hair was now a silvery white, and some of her teeth were missing. But age does not hide familiarity from me. This was her. This was Emily. I knelt down beside her. I took out the locket and I held it out to her. She stared. And that's something I believe many find odd. People do see me, I believe. They see me in their last few moments. They recognize that I'm there. And their reactions to me range anywhere from acceptance, joy, fear, remorse, sadness. I've seen it all. Man, that's for another time, I suppose. But in her case, she took one look at that locket, and a single tear escaped her eyes as she reached out to take it. She never reached it. Her body gave out in that moment, and her hand went back down to her breast. So I did the rest for her. I carefully lay the locket in her hand, closing her fingers around it so whoever found her alone in her bed would find this with her, and hopefully bury her with it. I remember her soul felt heavy, weighed down by that remorse, by that pain. In hindsight, maybe it was wrong for me to show her that locket. Maybe it was a little too painful. Or maybe it was the most wonderful thing I could have done for her. I'm afraid I myself don't really know what was the better option. I'm really not that good with context or tact. My social skills are quite limited for reasons I'm sure you can appreciate. Have you ever glimpsed back at a memory and constantly beat yourself up over whether or not you did the right thing? I do that quite often. I suppose it all comes with detachment from many life's pleasures. It comes with being death. But life, the celebration of it, the appreciation of the times you have and the things you cherish. It could be a locket, a book, a toy, a favorite food. These passions are things I find so much complexity and glory in. The moments that seem the most trivial, and yet have all the meaning in the world. How can one describe life as meaningless, simply a series of probabilities and chances, when in life mortals find such fascinating things to love? Can probability account for the oddity of passion, the illogical basis for cherished material items? Can it account for the value in a favorite food or an article of clothing? What logic was there in this soldier clinging to his locket as he lay dying? What was the cold logic when Emily was crying over it in her deathbed? It's meaningless. And yet, nothing else could be more important in the world in those moments. And there is the contrast. It is a meaningless thing, and yet it carries more meaning than anything else. And yet, even in this odd, contrasting description, I have not yet even begun to scratch the surface of what life has to offer mortals. It is a mere glimpse at a world that I have observed from afar with a sense of wonder. I've found that it is in those who understand these finer details, those people who recognize the intricacies of life, these subtle but meaningless complexities that carry true meaning, have learned the true value of life. And to those of you who have discovered it, I find that you are the most ready to meet me when I come. How strange. I'm preaching about life, and yet I represent the ending of it. Maybe I myself am a contradiction. Whatever the case, I'm afraid I must go again. Sincerely, Death.